Welcome to the AI Silicon Valley podcast, where we give you Silicon Valley perspective for all current AI topics. We are in Palo Alto, California. This is podcast number 23. My name is Eric Nelson. And with me today, I have my co-host, Rajesh Kadam. Rajesh, how you doing?
Hey, I'm doing fantastic, Eric. How are you?
I'm doing great. You know, we're in the thick of it, Silicon Valley. We're coming into wintertime.
Yes.
Yeah, it's getting some cold weather. It's good. You know, I'm excited to see all the Christmas cheer around AI as we come into the holiday season, right? Like
Yeah.
lots of good stuff going on. How have you been?
Pretty good, pretty good. It's been pretty sunny actually in like sort of mid-afternoon. So actually, it's great. So the winter hasn't hit me yet mentally, so to speak.
The
So
winter
I'm
has
glad.
not hit here in Palo Alto, California. Right? It is not. It's not here yet. Right? And traffic's crowded, busy
Yeah.
traffic. Lots
Very
of
busy. I
lots of
think.
activity. Nobody's gotten the memo. Stay home and work from home now.
Right.
Everybody's back at
Back
work, right?
work.
And,
Back to work.
back
to work.
back in the office. Yeah.
Yes.
So
Yes.
so lots of stuff going on with AI as always. You know, there's just so much going on, but we thought we'd talk a little bit about bubbles, right? We'll
Yeah.
have the bubble conversation because it's in the news. Everybody's talking. Is this the bubble? And you know, I feel like there's a power bubble. You know, everybody's talking about how much power you're going to need, and you know, we need to build power plants and tons of power. There's the economic bubble. Are they putting in billions of dollars? And you know, how is that working? And then
Right.
there's this capability bubble, right?
Right.
Like, oh, it's going to do everything. It's going to toast my bread. It's going to rescue me from every disease known to man. I mean, so there's this capability overselling what AI is going to actually get you. So, and then there's a reality of these. So, thought we would spend a little bit today talking about the realities of the capability, the economics, and even how much power. And when I say power, I also include how much capacity data centers, all of that. Like
Right.
I
Right.
call it the power bubble, but it's really the capacity requirement bubble. You need all this, all these data centers. But the funny thing is they're talking about nuclear power plants and coal power plants, and everybody's talking about power, right?
Right.
So
Right.
it's
No. No.
it's
No.
it's a sense of capacity, right?
It's a fantastic theme. Albeit, should I say, a lot of people have been discussing it. So hopefully we come up with some new interesting points and angles, right, that folks haven't heard from other places already,
Well, I
right?
don't know. They
And
just get to hear it from us,
from
right?
us,
Yeah,
and we
yeah.
haven't gone live in a few weeks actually. So I'm definitely looking forward to our conversation here and. Just kind of riff a little bit about
Time slips by.
time slips by.
So
Yeah.
speaking of the economic bubble, I heard about SoftBank and Nvidia. What's the deal?
Right. Yeah. So SoftBank, Masayoshi Son, I mean, they announced today that they sold a $5 billion stake in Nvidia today, or at least that was, I guess, came out of the filings. Which I think the market perceived as a sort of a negative signal, but I think the truth is that, I mean, their positioning was that, hey, we need this money to invest in OpenAI, so that's why we are sort of liquidating the stake. And there's a bit of history to this. It's kind of interesting. Masa first invested in Nvidia, I believe, back in 2017, if I'm not wrong, or previous to that, I don't remember but he did exit in 2019. And which was, of course, a bad decision, right?
Yes.
The stock rallied basically right after 2020, 21.
I remember that.
Like,
I remember that.
So he got it wrong the first time. Maybe this time around, we don't know. Maybe I don't know how much off he's going to be. But at a $5 trillion sort of valuation, 4.55, it's actually, getting up there, one of the most valuable company under the sun right now. And
Right.
If you look at the upward trajectory, we're talking about whatever, right, 2-3x over the next whatever 5-7 years, perhaps potentially,
Yeah.
right? Like, I mean, who knows, right? What the upside is, but it's nothing like what has been seen. And then if you're a VC, I mean, your mental model is, of course, totally different, right? Like you are looking at if I put in
Good.
money in OpenAI.
Good VCs know how to get out.
Yes.
Right. They invest early on. It runs up. They make billions of dollars. But if they don't get out, they're not doing their job.
Right. Yeah, they definitely need to return money to LPs and so on and so forth. Of course, there's the whole thing, and I mean, with every IPO, I mean, I have a renewed appreciation now of when you get into an IPO, it's somebody else offloading their stake. So all the hard work or the time that VCs and employees and founders, the time they have put in to get to that point, right, is when sort of retail buys. But you're buying into it's a little bit of an
Yeah,
offload
yeah,
scenario.
they're
So right,
they're
like
off-roading for
yeah,
sure.
they're offloading,
Yeah, yeah,
right?
yeah,
So
yeah.
so it's kind of interesting. So anyway, I mean, yeah, that's kind of on yeah, that's a bit of been, I think, a bit of a dampener. The market did go down on Friday, actually, specifically. I mean, because of other factors too.
Yeah.
I don't know how much of our audience might know about this, but there's a short seller called Michael Burry, I believe. Yeah, Michael Burry, and he got the calls on shorting things back in 2000 and 2008. Quite, he was spot on, and he has a big short bet right now on Palantir and a little bit on Nvidia as well. And I can totally understand why Palantir could be like a sort of short selling sort of situation at the moment, right? At 4 times earnings, I think it is definitely rich in
Yeah,
terms of valuation.
it's kind of like that where some of the places I've looked where I've worked and I look at the valuation and I'm like, okay, if we get everything perfect for the next 5 years,
Right.
we might be able to make the money that they're expecting us to make. But the likelihood of it actually going perfect
Right.
for 5 more years straight,
Right.
and then people don't understand when up is done, right? Like, and so, yeah, the smart guys know when something's at reaching the top 20% of where it'll ever be ever, right?
Right.
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 And
Right.
and I remember when I worked at Sun Microsystems, guys would tell me that, like, we were at $18 billion and we were at $180 a share, and like to double again or to grow anymore, we would have had to turn into a $36 billion company and start supplying all the computers for everywhere, right? And
Right.
that wasn't going to happen, right? Just no, you're not going to be able to capture any more market share than you already have. And so in the AI space, there is definitely an investment paradigm, right? That when is enough. I personally don't think there's an economic bubble, right?
Yeah.
Like I personally think that there's just so much upside in devices, right? Agentic workflows and agentic, being able to accomplish things. Right now, it's really good in that it's helping me do my day job, right? And
Right.
I use it to all kind of things, but it isn't self-sustaining yet, right? I'm still waiting for my Tesla bot, to come, but this stuff's coming, right?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
and so how much is all that worth? Let's kind of look at a Tesla and go like, okay, they're a big AI company now, right? People don't realize that they got a ton of AI data. They got an AI engine in their cars, right?
Right.
They're building the AI robot, right? They're going to have that, and so they're an AI company, and they haven't even started self-driving, right? They're still just selling
I
the
think
items.
the market is definitely baking that into those valuations, so that's why I didn't bring up Tesla, right? Like, I mean, Tesla and Palantir definitely both have very high sort of
Right.
price to earnings, right? Like,
But but to
yeah,
your point about the short sellers, right? I think the short sellers are also starting to look at how do I make money in this,
right,
in this expansion, right? It's
right.
gonna, and I feel like to some degree the financial companies are actually in the business of creating the bubble narrative so that they can cause it to pop and come in and buy at 30% discount, right? Like I feel like that's a reality. I
This
don't have
is
any
yeah,
evidence for that, but I just feel like that.
yeah, no, that's an interesting point of view. I had not thought about that, right? Like, but if we take it like look at the numbers, right, in a sort of long hard fashion, I mean, there's a little bit of nuance here. So if you take this quarter's sort of earnings, I believe, right, like 80% of the S&P 500, that is 400 out of the 500 S&P 500 companies in the index, have reported earnings above consensus, right? Analyst estimates. So that's a very high number, right? Like, so
Did you say above or about at?
no,
Above. Okay,
yeah,
okay.
right. Like,
Right.
so 80% of them
Right.
reported more than that, right? Like, now,
Right.
I personally would chalk it to, personally, I'd put that down to AI, right? Like, AI is being used in all sorts of ways with employees. I mean, with ChatGPT, we are now at whatever 800 million weekly active users, right? So all of these people are using ChatGPT for different things, right? Like simple things, writing
Yeah.
emails, right, drafting memos, or right, or knowledge, yeah, like asking questions. So all of that is sort of happening under the radar, so to speak. It's not like somebody has mandated that, if you you can mandate that you cannot use ChatGPT, but otherwise, any organization where it's open, right, and it can be anything else, need not be ChatGPT. Yeah.
So I'll have to ask you a question. How many purchases have you made where you actually use AI to determine what you should be purchasing?
Yeah, so well, I got a step further actually, right? So this podcast that we are doing right now here is on Atlas browser, right? So it's
Hmm.
ChatGPT's Atlas, right?
Hmm.
So agentic browser, and using this browser, I actually went to Amazon, and I was looking for a certain product, like a just a beach towel, and I had it click on the purchase button, and it did it for me, meaning right, like just with yeah, like prompts essentially, right? So agentic commerce is here, right?
Right.
Is definitely here, but this is just the what should we call tip of the iceberg, right? Like I
Well,
mean, yeah.
yeah. My own answer to this question is that everything. I have not bought anything in the last month
Oh,
that
without
I have not asked AI, hey, I'm thinking about doing this project. What would I need to do? What would I need to get? What are my solutions for this project? And I've
right,
done like maybe 10 or 15 projects around the house, painting and this and hardwood floor restoration. And I've been working on my house. And it's like I ask AI everything,
right,
and then AI gives me the links to go buy it, right? And like that, and that's that. Now it isn't making the purchase yet. I
right,
don't let it purchase yet, but certainly am using it. And so when you're talking about economic activity, right?
yeah,
As I use AI I do more projects. I am able to get things done quicker because it tells me what I need to do. I go do it and I say it works, and I went, oh, okay,
right,
there.
right,
It's not hard to figure all this stuff out. It used to be I'd do one project a month because it was hard to figure out what I need to do, what I buy, look up in the yellow pages or whatever I was doing to buy stuff, go on Amazon or whatever. Like
right.
now AI just, and then talk about Grok and the voice. I've been using the
The voice
voice
functionality,
activation, yeah, on
right,
Grok, and I'm just having whole conversations about my project because it remembers,
right,
what I'm talking about. I don't close the app; I just keep it open in the background on my phone, and then, yeah, it's like
it's
so
amazing.
that's economics. That's economics. That's enabling economics, right?
Exactly. And so that is not, in my opinion, all of that is what is driving some of these, better earnings, right?
Right,
So if the economy is going to grow at like 4% GDP, right?
right,
I mean, overall GDP growth is going to, accelerate, right?
right.
And so this whole thing about a bubble, right, or a question,
Economic bubble, yeah.
economic bubble, like is a nuanced picture, because the other side of the coin, really, if you look at it, is that some very large companies are trading at crazy multiples, like GE Vernova, right, which supplies the gas turbines that go
Hmm.
into data centers, right, for
Yeah,
power.
well, yeah. Now, yeah,
Yeah, right. Like, so that's trading at like 95 times earnings, for example. All the
right.
miners, right, that are supplying
Hmm.
power are turning into AI plays. They themselves are, many of them are like at pretty high multiples. So now, so my nuanced view on this, or my view, is that there's going to be a correction, right? So it's not exactly a bubble. There's going to be a correction, right? And typically when corrections happen, the pendulum swings too much to the other extreme, right? So now we have inflated valuations. Maybe it kind of goes
I'm just
way
seeing micro. I'm seeing micro corrections, right? Like, yeah, we fall $50 or we fall, 7%, in a 2-day bad trading cycle, but then you just watch guys jump back in, right?
right,
Yeah,
right.
they're looking at lows, and that's why I feel like they're manipulating it to be able to do buying opportunities, right?
Interesting,
Right.
interesting. Yeah, no, I mean, who knows, right? Like, I
Yeah.
mean, that's kind of hard to tell. But overall, I mean, I think Nvidia is releasing its earnings. I think in about a week or so on the 17th, and I mean, hey, it's probably one of the more reasonable valuations around, right? Like at forward PE, probably is going to be in the 30s, mid 30s, probably. So, definitely a reasonable one. But some people even question the accounting that's done around this. So who knows? That I'm
Well, yeah,
not,
they did some pretty big investments, and we're not talking about the power bubble yet. But when we get into the power bubble, it's like, is Nvidia donating machines, to
right, right.
OpenAI,
OpenAI
and then
and
counting that as sales, right?
right,
Like,
yeah,
or well, it was their money, right?
right, right,
So,
right. I mean, the whole thing about circular deals, I
mhm.
guess, is what people are calling it. I mean, as far as there's consumer demand at the very end of it, right? Like, I think all is good, right? if there's no consumer demand, if that falls, it's kind of where this whole thing is going to fall apart, right?
Yeah,
Like, I mean,
yeah,
that's
right.
basically the
But
bottom
I
line.
see
Yeah.
I see it working. I see it working. I don't think there's a bubble, and I don't think we even touched it yet.
Yeah.
Like, you know, when you start having a robot tell me what it's going to do for me and running around, and you know,
Right.
that's when it's going to be, yeah, it's going to be revolutionary. It is coming, right?
Yeah.
And so,
Yeah.
and the more things do, the more, yeah, I don't think we've touched. I don't think we've
Yeah,
touched. I don't
yeah.
think we've touched on anything it's going to do yet.
I mean, one sort of comment slash what I heard, like Amy Hood, the Microsoft CFO, she was mentioning about how, right, like currently their bottleneck is around power, right?
Mhm.
It's not so much the GPUs, and Satya Nadella made that point as well in another podcast. So, but like they are making investments or commitments to some of these new clouds, for example, that are going to go in the 10, 15 to 20-year time frame. And so Amy Hood's point is, do I have confidence that these resources are going to be used over a longer time frame? She said, yes, very high. My confidence is very
Yeah,
high.
very
So,
high. That's
right?
that's what I'd
Yeah.
say. And that,
Yeah.
let's move on to the power bubble, right? And when I mean power bubble, it should really be the infrastructure bubble, right? Like, where everybody, they're looking at what they have to build out, and we're talking billions of dollars investments in data centers. They're building power plants, like all the big guys, Google and Microsoft and OpenAI and Tesla, not Tesla, Elon Musk, I guess, you know, are looking at building massive data centers, right? And
Right.
building power plants. And Trump has, you know, granted power plant, you know, accelerated permitting, where you can get a permit for a new power plant in like 2 months. And he's bragging about that. And so, you know, they're going crazy on investing in, and to your point of now anything that is required in a data center is, you know, going through the roof because the amount of dollars they're going to spend. So there is this what I call power bubble, bubble around investing in data centers and infrastructure. And the question is it a bubble, right? Or are you going to need that capacity, right? Because it's a capacity question. Like, and you know, I always tell people that, you know, when I had a buddy that worked at Facebook, right, and he's like, you know, they have like 1 million servers, right? Yeah, because every one server can handle about 100 Facebook users, right? So we don't think about it like, hey, you know, hey, if you got people looking at their Facebook and posting on their wall back in the day and uploading your photos and all that, you don't really think like, how many servers is this taking? How many web servers are in the back end handling? Well, it turns out that one server can do like 1/100th of a user. So 100 users, that means one server. Well, they got like 1 billion. They got 1 billion users, right? So divide that by 100. That's like what is that? 1 million servers? Yeah, you got 1 million servers, right?
Right.
Okay, that's how many data centers? Well, how many servers you get in a data center? Like 20,000, right? You know, maybe that's a super big data center, right? So if you have 1 million servers, that means you're going to have whatever that is, 1,000 data centers, right? So if you look at AI and the inference, the runtime cost of your AI, right? Is it 1 out of 100? No, I think it's probably more like 1 out of 10. You need one. You need 10. You get 10 users on a single GPU, right? For runtime, right? Well, and you know, how many millions of users did you just say OpenAI has, right? And then if you do the math and calculate it out, it's like, yep, you need a lot of power, a lot of servers, because it's probably 10x what Facebook required, right? Like Facebook would be 100 users per server. AI best case 10 users per server, and probably worse. And that's not even talking about training. That's just runtime. Right.
Inference, I think people are underestimating. I mean, again, at almost 1 billion users, weekly active users, right? Almost.
Yeah.
We are talking about huge. We're talking about big numbers, right? So I think people might be underestimating the amount of inference that's gonna go in, right?
Right.
And I think the biggest thing here, honestly, where I see there might be a blind spot is around the Jevons paradox, which is as inferencing costs drop, right? As cost for per token essentially drop computation, the usage is exponentially going to go higher, right? Like, so that is where this whole thing about, hey, are we going to go into overcapacity, etc., that's where the conversation is centered. And also there's a little bit of PTSD from I guess 2000, 2001, where a lot of optic fiber capacity was built, and I believe 96% of that fiber capacity was unlit. Essentially,
Right.
you
Right.
were not able
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
use it,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? So that's what,
Dark fiber. Yeah.
yeah, dark fiber, exactly. So that's what kind of led to the collapse, right? So I don't know here. Are we going to run into where exactly are we going to run into the bottlenecks in the supply chain? And in fact, Satya Nadella made a comment that, hey, look, it's hard to predict where the next bottleneck is going to be, right? Like for a while, chips were the bottleneck. Now, clearly, it's power, right? Like they don't have warm shells to put these racks
Yeah.
in. Yeah,
Yeah. Lit
yeah,
shells.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but who knows, right? Like 6 months down the line, where exactly is it going to be the bottleneck? It's hard to know. So I think it's an evolving picture, but the end of the day, right? I think the big contrast between the 2000s and now, or the 2000 bubble, is really that there's very genuine customer demand. We actually have real use cases, right? One of the things question people bring up is, hey, are people able to pay, right? Like, well, most of ChatGPT's users obviously are free users, right? But they're generating about what, they're at about 15 billion now, I think, right? In run rate. um which is very substantial, of
Right.
course, but
Right.
it's small compared to the commitments that they made, which is about 1.4 trillion over the next 7 years. All right, so by 2030.
I'm losing
So
money per transaction, but I'm making up on volume. Right.
yes,
Yeah.
yes, I
Right.
think there's some
There's some of
dynamic
that.
like that,
Right.
right? There's some of that. So I mean, so you have the OpenAIs and Anthropics of the world, and then you have the long tail of startups, right? Where are the economics going to work out? Is kind of one question, of course, right? But I think token inference cost is just dropping dramatically year on year, right, month on month. So I think that trend will continue to happen, right? So I think yeah, right, like efficiency gains will continue to accrue to these players. Is sort of how I see it.
I would propose that no one's going to make money at this.
No one's
That
going to
no one's
make
going to
money.
make money on AI. You're going to make money on the product sales that use AI, right? So Microsoft's going to keep selling Microsoft Office, right? They're going to still keep selling operating systems, Windows that will run your browser. So it's another use for computer systems, right? Another use for your phone. So Apple will continue to make money. Why? Because I'm going to talk to Grok on my phone, right? And so if you're making hardware, you're going to make a lot of money because this is another great app for your hardware, right? It's another great app for your car. It's another great app for your dryer and washer, right? I think those are people are going to enable these functions in your product,
Right.
but you're going to be selling your product. You're not going to be selling a true AI service.
Right.
Well,
right.
a service is different, like a video. I pay money to because these things do snippets, right? So for the
Right.
other podcasts I run, I make snippets and I pay them because it's
Right.
worth paying them $100 a month
Absolutely.
just to generate all these snippets, right?
Right.
And so you're using services that have AI built into it, a video making service or a snippet making service,
That's
or whatever. My Tesla car will be AI. I'll buy an Optimus when they come up with a robot, right?
Right.
And I buy my iPhone, it has AI built into it. You'll use Google search because it's got AI built into it, but
Right.
they're making money
Yeah. Yeah.
on their products.
Yeah. No, there's all kinds of products. I mean, I think there are two questions here. One, yes, the application layer, right? I think increasingly over time, the value accrual in the stack will go to the application players relative to people at the bottom of the stack, like the Nvidias of the world, right?
Right.
Or even power and so on and so forth. So that will happen at some point, right?
Right.
But I don't know if we are there yet, right? So just yesterday, there's a PowerPoint equivalent, AI equivalent of PowerPoint, which is a company called Gamma. They just raised about 70 million on a $2 billion valuation, I believe. So they must be generating, I'm assuming that's somewhere between 50 and 100 million ARR right now. So, that's real money. People are paying for that service, right? And OpenAI, obviously, at this point, right, I cannot kind of use ChatGPT to generate full scale sort of PowerPoints, right, based on what I need. So, there is definitely, monetization from the services that's going to happen. And we don't even know things like robots, right? Like, I mean, they're going to consume massive amount of AI resources, right? Each robot. So
So,
I think
I coming back to, is there a power bubble? Is there an infrastructure bubble? My answer is no.
right,
That we're going to have AI built into every single product we purchase,
right,
right? And yeah, you'll still use a free AI to help you make your purchases,
right.
but it's the AI embedded in the product that's just why you need all this capacity.
Right, right, right. Absolutely, absolutely. And one other point I just wanted to touch on was like about devices. You mentioned about the phone and Microsoft Office and so
Mhm.
on and so forth. I mean, Sam Altman, right? They acquired a company which was started by John Ivey, who's the creator of the iPhone,
Sure.
right?
Mhm.
So, and Sam Altman has been alluding in the last sort of couple of weeks
Oh, did
actually
he build
about
Ivy's device company, the one that he started up? He got purchased.
yeah,
I did
yeah,
not
yeah,
know
yeah,
that. All
yeah,
right,
yeah.
I
They
wondered where he was or what.
yeah,
I
yeah.
know he started his own gig, right? His own design
Right.
firm, right?
So they got bought for about 6 billion, I believe that's the number, back in the whatever several
Nice. Yeah,
months
yeah,
ago.
yeah. Right.
So now Sam has been hinting about this consumer device that they're
Mm-hmm.
working on
Right.
someday
Right.
could be super revolutionary. So we don't know the form factor of this device. I mean, maybe it's a pendant. Who knows,
It's
right?
gonna be a phone.
It's you think so? I mean, yeah, phone wouldn't be revolutionary by any means, right? Like, I mean, the same form factor, something we hold in our hand. I don't know, right? Like,
I'm just joking. Yeah.
yeah. So a point is, if that changes, then a lot of these dynamics are going to change. And Eric, as you mentioned, right? Like, you're talking to Grok, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
I also talk to ChatGPT all the time. Like, that's my preferred way of interacting on a specific problem. If I'm
Right.
discussing, right, like particular project, something that I'm thinking through, it's just easier to talk, get a response, do a back and forth, right?
Right.
So I mean, and all of that computation, right? Like just voice is, I'm sure,
Yeah.
far
Yeah. Just
more.
just
Yeah, like
throw in the voice computation needed for per user as well. Right.
is far higher probably than text. I'm assuming, right? Like that's what I would think, right? Not sure, but
I'm thinking no, but it's okay. It's okay. It's an interesting.
yeah.
I'm thinking that the phone app itself
Uh-huh.
does that off the CPU off the phone, and then
Hmm.
sends back text to
Mm.
to the server, right? But it converts it to text locally on the phone.
No, I don't think. I mean,
No,
that would be in a situation where you had SLM, right? Like a small language model on the edge on the phone.
no, 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 no. It's just recognizing language. That's different. It's not figuring out anything. It's just converting your voice to strings and sending it back.
No, but that would have to be done at the app level, not at the phone level, not at the hardware level,
Well, no,
because
at the phone, at the app, the
at the app
Grok
level.
app.
Okay.
Yeah,
Oh, I
it's
see. I
not
see. I see.
using the backend server
Okay.
CPU.
Okay.
I'm using my phone, so the amount of CPU needed for the voice probably won't change. The
Mm-hmm.
equation on the AI workload on the AI load, the inference load, because the phone's going to do the conversion from speech to text,
Right.
send the text back to the server.
Right. And I'm not super conversant on this topic, but I do know that there is speech to speech, like without any conversion to text,
Mm-hmm.
and then there
Mm-hmm.
is speech to text,
Right.
getting response back from the LLM
Yeah.
in text,
Mm-hmm.
and then back to speech, right? Like, so I believe both of these
Right.
are two separate modalities, and
Right.
they have different outputs, is my understanding, but I'm not super familiar with it.
Right.
But anyway, I mean, yeah. So I think coming back to the question of bubble, yeah, like we just see a lot of momentum and energy, and then everybody sees that, right? Like, so I think when it comes to sort of the equities, public equities, though, valuations are reliant on numbers and future projections, etc.
Right.
So when some of those things shift, of course, it's going to affect some of the numbers. And I mean, case in point is CoreWeave in your cloud. In fact, NVIDIA is an investor in CoreWeave. And CoreWeave, I think today, yeah, I think today's Tuesday. Yeah, yesterday or today, they announced their earnings. In their earnings call, they mentioned about, I believe, so one of their vendors for their data center is behind schedule, basically. So they're not able to bring up right capacity on time as they had promised or as they had planned. So, and I believe that vendor is Core Scientific, but which they attempted to buy a few months ago. So a point their stock suffered, like it dropped like 15% or something like that. So that is kind of goes into this whole question of like valuations and bubble and that sort of thing. So I mean, one good thing when everybody's thinking about is there going to be a bubble, probably there won't be a bubble as a result, right? Like you see, so that's probably a good thing for everybody.
Right. Right.
Right. So I'm overall, I think, cautiously optimistic on how things are going, right? Very, of course, very, very extremely bullish on where this thing is going to be 5 or 10 years from now, and probably a lot of people are, right? But the near term, short term outlook is probably going to be a bit up and down, a bit rocky.
The only thing they would make this a bubble, right? All of these topics a bubble, is if you have a lull in capability offering users, right? If for whatever reason we kind of stall out in well, right now I'm talking to Grok and it's helping me, and it's it's giving me all the answers I need. It gives me links to products that I can go buy, and it answers my questions, solves my problems, gives me things to buy, and that's good. But if that's all it does, if we go into a 2 year lull while they're developing more things that it does, like a Tesla bot never shows up, right? My car never self drives, then maybe some of the stuff could get stagnant, and you could see a decline because people go, well, what's all this billions of dollars going to do for you if it's all it's going to do is order Amazon products for you, right? So you could see that, but I just haven't seen that come to pass yet, right? So
I mean, I think, yeah. I mean, all of this capex investment obviously has to yield results and revenues. So I think from OpenAI standpoint, again, outflow, or what they've committed to is 1.4 trillion. So I believe they need about 150 billion in free cash flow by 2030. So big numbers.
The other thing that strikes me that you mentioned earlier is just whether there is going to be a competitive shrinking, a market shrinking, because Facebook, right, with Anthropic or open source, competes against somebody else, and they lose share, and all of a sudden those billions of dollars of servers and data centers get shut down because they don't end up being the Pepsi or Coke in the space, right? And will there be industry consolidation that could put downward pressure on the bubble?
Yeah, that's an interesting point. I mean, look, I think amongst all the hyperscalers or large players, Meta definitely seems to be trailing at the moment. Their open source strategy doesn't seem to have panned out super well, and maybe that's the reason behind the scenes there's a little bit of a scramble, with buying Scale AI, for example, and all the huge pay packets that
do people actually want to rely on open source for this, right? Like, I mean,
so that's the interesting question, right? Like, I mean, if you want to build something proprietary, maybe a healthcare use case, etc.,
right.
maybe you do need maybe you can't hit the APIs, right? Like, so maybe people ask for fine-tuned models, right? But what is so I think on the consumer side, given the traction that we are seeing with both Anthropic and OpenAI, the answer is probably on the retail use case, on the customer use case, right? Like B2C use case, definitely it's the API sort of market, right?
Right.
On the enterprise B2B use case, looks like both OpenAI and Anthropic are gaining traction, and I believe Anthropic is better traction than OpenAI on the enterprise front, is what I'm told. But that's an open question right now, right? Like, because the whole thing about securities, what is that? What does the security model look like, etc. I mean, I think there's a lot more clarity now than there was 2 years ago, but clearly a lot of stuff needs to be worked out still, right? So, so that is to say, there is definitely a market for like taking open source model and tuning it and using it for your own purposes, right? But what the trend we are seeing there, right? Like, is this Chinese folks? I mean, starting with DeepSeek. I mean, DeepSeek was a big success on the Chinese side, right? And people do use DeepSeek right now. And then there's Quen, which is another Chinese model that's come out lately. And just this past week, I think another one called Kim or Kim or Kim's, right? Like that's been sort of apparently, I think in terms of benchmarks, it's doing quite well. Now, this is sort of the Chinese, not onslaught, but Balaji Srinivasan is predicting that the Chinese are going to flood the market with a lot of these open source models and commoditize them and really seek to create arbitrage or profit opportunities on the hardware layer where they excel, right? So when people need to build robots, I mean, that's all China, Chinese manufacturing, etc. So
Yeah, that's the edge that they have. Right?
that's the
They don't
edge that
really
they
have
have.
edge in software.
Right,
Right.
right, right,
Right.
right.
There's no magic build it here for cheap labor.
Right, right, right. But they are putting out models. So if you look at worldwide usage of these models, they are actually the Chinese models are taking the lead. Actually, not the Llama models, right, from Meta. So this is what I remember reading in terms of the data. So that is something for Zuck to So I think there's
Well,
something
that's the
here.
problem with open source, right? Like this is where I wouldn't
Right,
go, right?
right.
Apple teaches you don't become who Toshiba, right? Making phones that were
Mm-hmm.
cheap, right? Because in the
Mm-hmm.
end, the beautiful phones win, the smart AIs win.
Right, right.
But if you need to pay money to put an AI in your washing machine and you're making it in China already, then sure, use their AI.
Use there, yeah, exactly. So
Yeah.
I mean, I think so that open source is still sort of an open question. And in fact, it's interesting what's happening at Meta. So Jan LaCun, who's sort of their evangelist, I guess, AI
Mm-hmm.
evangelist, who's kind of very vocal. He's leaving Meta, actually. Just today's news, he's leaving Meta to do his own thing on startup, I believe. So there's definitely changes happening on their side. So it's interesting, going to be interesting to see. So
A lot of money being thrown around. So yeah,
yes,
yeah, yeah,
yes,
yeah.
yes. I mean,
So
there's a lot at stake. Yeah. So
let's switch gears onto the third topic here, which is capability, right?
okay.
Which is kind of what I was alluding to before. Like capability is booming, right? Like they seem like they're moving the needle, but I believe if you wanted to talk about anywhere where there might be a bubble, it might be in the capability side, right?
Mm,
That
mm,
is AI. How much is AI going to do? Well, it's certainly helping me, right? Learn about my projects and figure out, how to take, let's see, hardwood floor that was red oak and convert it to white oak, then convert it to ash, right? And there's
mm-hmm,
a chemical process to do that. And there's no way I know how to do this, but Grok just told me. Oh
right.
yeah, yeah. I took a picture of my flooring, told him where I bought it, and he went, oh yeah, you got this, red oak, cheap red oak from Lumber Liquidators, and it's this cheap, but you can convert it. You can. There's a chemical. You got to pay $200 and buy like 5 gallons of this stuff and run this on there. Then do the next chemical, a bleaching and a that, and then you know
Right.
yeah, and I can turn it into ash, right? I
Right.
can make it pretty,
Right.
and those kind of things are a capability. It's straight line AI helping me understand things,
Mm-hmm.
but everybody is talking about everything, right? Like, and the question is it really going to revolutionize every single product, right? Is there a capability bubble?
Mm, mm, mm.
I don't know. We talked about agentic AI on
Right.
some of the early shows, and I
Right.
don't see it doing a lot of things for me. That's the idea
Not yet.
between
Not yet. I mean, yeah.
agentic AI. Does it book my travel?
Not yet.
Not yet.
Not
Right.
yet. Yeah. No, I think that is coming super soon. Here is my sense, right? Like so.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, just a couple of minutes on that, right? Like, I mean, Stripe has come up with what is called as Agentic Commerce Protocol (ACP) in collaboration with OpenAI, right? So OpenAI announced a few sort of shopping partners, like I think Shopify was one of them. I don't know if Etsy was another,
Mm-hmm.
right? So where you can buy stuff on Shopify and Etsy via OpenAI, right? And that's enabled by this protocol, just similar to MCP, right?
Mm-hmm.
Model Context Protocol, just like that. You have Agentic Commerce Protocol. Now, I think we're going to see a big inflection quickly, right? Like once they get the technical, the shit, the thing right,
Mm-hmm.
right? How to make it work, then it's going to just like accelerate very, very quickly, right? So I think the agentic piece is still sort of raw. Yeah, I do agree, right? But it's probably not too far away, is my sense. Is probably not too far away. So, but anyway, that's just one capability. Yeah, right. Like,
Yeah.
can it book my whole trip, for example, plan and book? I think we
Right.
are still maybe 12 months, 16 months away with that. That's the sense I get, right?
Right.
It's not going to do it this Christmas for sure.
And I think a lot of people are investing in building out economic models with this idea that there might be a capability bubble there, right?
Right.
LLMs are good. They help me. They understand what I'm asking, and they give me a nice answer. I read it, and I do that. Now it can talk to me, on my phone, and be my little partner. And even in the car, I know people now that do not go anywhere without using Apple Car nav, or like because it talks to you while you're driving, tells you when there's an accident, when there's a police officer, when there's things to slow down, and it's like,
Right.
and they actually friends of mine are like, I actually, when I drive alone, I like to have it on because it's like a friend, right? It keeps, it's not, I don't turn the radio on. I let my AI just talk to me while we're driving, right? And so there could be things like that pop up that are like the next generation capability, right? That they go, okay, now it's starting to talk to me, and now it can watch a television show with me and tell me what it thinks, when I'm watching, the latest Netflix series by myself, right? I guess I could have my AI there listening to the show and then throwing out comments to me. What'd you think? Or hey, whatever.
I think AI companions are definitely a thing already. I think, fortunately or unfortunately, we don't know.
I haven't stumbled into those, right? So I know they got little puppety things that are kind of cute, but I don't know if there's like a real good companion that like a grok that's just listening and then keeping me company.
Right. So I mean, I think unfortunately, I think it's a slippery slope as well, right? Like meaning, how close, or how familiar should you become with an AI companion, right? Like, but my understanding is a lot of people are using it, in that fashion.
In there as a relation, I don't think I need to fall in love with my AI companion or anything like that. But there's certainly something to be said for it keeping you company when you're on a road trip, right? Making sure I'm staying awake, chatting with me, telling me how the road conditions are, and asking me, hey, how's life been, right? Like long drives can be boring. 4 hours later, you're driving by yourself. So I can see use cases like that.
No, there's probably lots of use cases which we haven't even thought of yet, right? Like there's absolutely that, right? I think some of these AI systems, talking about AI companion, etc., I think they need guardrails, right? And I'm sure all these model providers are working on it, right? Like, so there was a case, there was a court case that was filed this past week, actually, right? Where somebody was interacting with ChatGPT for several months, and it was a teenager, and he killed himself. And the parents have taken OpenAI to court, basically, right? And the transcripts essentially show the conversations, right, that the person has had with the LLM, with ChatGPT, show that the model is, the ChatGPT is egging him on to do whatever he's doing, right? Like, so, which is a very unfortunate sort of way these models function, right? Like they tend to have a bias.
Yeah, they're reinforcing bias, right?
Yes,
they oh, you want to know more information about that?
Yeah.
Oh, you're working on this problem. Oh, how's it going, right? And so if you were headed down a dark space, right?
Right.
You can see where they would just, continue on that. That's kind of a model issue.
But, yeah. So I mean,
guardrails to your point.
You need guardrails, right? Like, so that's definitely something I think they should. They I'm sure they're working on it. It's not lost on them. I'm sure. But yeah. Anyway, I mean, there's a ton happening for sure in the space. AI.
So what's your most interesting capability that you've run into that you went, oh, this is nice?
I don't
What's
know.
your favorite one?
So I would call out the browser, honestly, like the Atlas browser. I would recommend everybody listening to us to go try it out, because it shows you like a chat window to the right of your browser, so you can basically ask the ChatGPT any question.
It's interacting with what content is being displayed in the browser.
If somebody is watching our show right now in their browser on their laptop, if it is being watched on GPT, Chat Atlas, they could be asking questions about me and you and the content.
Right. It's
pretty phenomenal, actually. Again, it's not like fully baked in, right? It might not be able to catch audio, video, things like that, right? Like I haven't checked out a real-time video show where I would ask questions, but it is able to do a lot of stuff, actually, right? Like, so that is huge. I think this is the kind of reskilling that has to happen, actually, right, across the workforce. This is inevitable, right?
Neat. Yeah.
Right?
I think I've run into the video creation generation for products, right?
Which one?
Just I don't remember the ones I've used.
Yeah.
I'd have to go look it up, but I've been using one where I just laid out like 3 paragraphs of, product launch. This is what I need. I gave it some images of, here's some of the products. Could you generate some of that product on a desk or in a, in a field, and, and then make a narrative. And I gave it the narrative, like, here's the narrative. And then it improved my narrative, and then ground away and made like a 3-minute video that was the best work I've seen. Right. You're like, oh man, right. That would have taken me 6 months and $40,000, right. To generate. Right. And yeah, just did it in like, I think I sat at a coffee table at Pete's for an hour and a half. Right. And I think I mentioned this on one of these shows already, but it's just like, it's still that we're doing snippets now. We're doing title snippets. We're doing, and we never used to do this stuff. Right. Because to do it, you'd have to go get Final Cut Pro or Adobe Premiere, right? Get your video, import it, get titles, figure out how the title mechanism worked. And like, I have people working where they couldn't even do that, right? You're like, oh, could I take an Adobe Premiere class so I could learn how to do titles? And it would be like a year investment to get to where now, just like, literally people that work for me just go, yeah, I'll go make one. Yeah. See if you can do it. 20 minutes later, there's a beautiful video with soundtrack, that matches the screens, cuts, right? You got screen cuts and videos, and then soundtracks, and just generates it all. And you're like,
yeah, it's
really nice work. Right. And
it's amazing. It's amazing. I think the capabilities
and lens flares and special effects, and you don't even have to ask it. It just creates it for you and does you a really nice job. It chooses it all for you.
Right.
And you look at that and you go, okay, that's changed how we used to function. Right. We will no longer ever go back. And to some degree, I got to think that Adobe, Premiere and Photoshop and that. Right. They're going to suffer from this.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely. Right. And the market has been sort of betting on that, right? Like if you look at their stock price, unfortunately for them, right? Like they are definitely sort of at the receiving end of this, right? And they, I think, made some decisions early on around AI and models and the training data that they use for their models that sort of maybe is coming to bite them. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, it's interesting. I mean, but they might be in a better.
Yeah, tool vendors are going to suffer for this. The downsides. Like, who's already experiencing the downside of this? Google, I think, still is at high risk of struggling through this as their ad revenue gets impacted by, I don't need to go to Google anymore. And I'm going to use some. Maybe I'll use Gemini, but maybe I won't.
Yeah. So I think my view of Google has changed in the last couple of weeks, actually, after their latest earnings announcements. My sense is that their cloud business definitely is doing great, right? So on the hyperscaler side, they are. Yeah,
just get into compute capacity, get out of surge.
So that's great, right? Looks like they're doing some stuff around like TPUs is beginning to pick up steam. They're actually putting up a data center in the US, just with like TPUs only kind of thing, right? So I think those things are going well. The question mark absolutely is around the ad revenue and how are they going to transition, and that's where sort of the things like ACP, the Agentic Commerce Protocol, etc., come in, right? So that I think is still a unresolved question, right? Like whether how successfully will they be able to cross the chasm, I guess, or the innovator's dilemma of cannibalizing their own revenue almost, right? Like, I mean, because they're in the business of, putting up 10 blue links. Hey, I go to your website, right? And they get paid, right? Like, depending on what is the acquisition model, right? That the advertiser has signed up for. But yeah, that is a huge shift, and we'll have to see how that pans out. But I mean, they have strong AI chops. So if OpenAI does stuff from within the browser in terms of enabling users to purchase things, etc., I think Google will be able to do that as well.
Well, I know we've been going for 50 minutes, so I will say that I think that next week I would like to spend some time talking about low cost AI models. Right. Like, we talked about China. We talked about some of these that are out there. It'd be fun to cover, like, if I wanted to run let's say I have a gaming machine at home and I want to go grab one of these models and what models are out there that I could go start playing with, and what would I do? Right. It'd be fun to kind of do a little bake off of the low cost models that are out there, and just, because everybody talks about the cloud models, right? And,
Right.
yeah, you can go use these. But
Right.
if you want to go hack on one, right, you want to go build one and running on your local machine for
Right.
your own little home lab AI models, what are the models out there, right?
Right. Right.
I know I'm working on some of that already, so it'd be fun to chat about that. So
That's
excited
great.
about some of that's going on. What's your next week look like? Anything interesting?
Um, um, well, I'm just diving deep into both AI and crypto. So, and very excited about some of the intersection that's happening there as well. So, but that's for we
Yeah,
should do a
another
show.
show.
Yeah,
Yeah,
another
another
show
show
there.
to deep dive on some of that.
Yeah,
Right,
yeah, yeah. I mean, I think it's exciting. I love keeping up with what's happening here.
yeah, yeah.
In the tech space overall.
All right. Well, thanks a lot for listening. If you guys made it all the way to the end here, thanks a lot. Appreciate it. Give us a like. Tell us you like it, and feel free to comment.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Eric.
Yeah,
Fantastic chatting.
good to be back again.
Okay. Bye.